And welcome back to the Zolteus Gaming Channel. I'm your host, Zolteus. Back with another episode of Empire of Sin Henchmen Review. We are on to Tier 4. As you can see, it's time to go over some henchmen and see what we got here. Now, weirdly enough, in this particular tier, there is no single-offs, just like we had in the previous 3 tiers. Every class actually, or type of henchman, actually has competition against each other. We have more than one for each one. So, we're going to start off with demo. First, we're going to start with Dale. All right, so Dale has good hit points, as you can see, upwards in that 100. Good marksman, 85, and that's a base. Unfortunately, he has a plus and a minus that kind of even it out, so not that great, but it's still pretty high for demolitionist. And the big plus here is that really strong melee. So if for some reason you throw your demolition type item and you're still going to be in melee, he's going to be able to get the job done. So that's good. He's got a pretty decent initiative here at 57. He's got a good move of 7, so that's good, and he has a pretty good leadership skill, 83. So that's actually pretty good. Defense is still low because of angry, and angry is the only negative that we're gonna have with him, but it affects a few things, and unfortunately defense is one of them, but it's still, at least he's got a defense. That's really all that matters here. Additionally, he's got hair trigger, which is only 50% chance, but it's still a chance nonetheless. So decent good stats there. The negative here really is angry, so he gets that minus to marksman. It really ups his melee though, so it's a bonus in that sense. However, you get that minus 10 to defense. So just things to kind of keep in mind with Dale here. Next we have Alfred. All right, so Alfred also has that good hit points, 100 hit points. He's got a higher initiative by 5, so that's actually pretty good. And he's got a pretty decent move of 7. So they have the same there. Unfortunately, he's got a good marksman, but with the weapon that he's currently holding, it actually brings that marksman down. Now, it's not bad because he actually has a higher marksman. You give him a different weapon, but he has that nervous reflexes, and you have to make sure that if you're going to specialize him, you specialize in the right way. So marksman, it's still good. It's just currently not as high. Then you also have that decent leadership skill. And he has the happy trait, so he gets that plus to marksman and the morale bonus for nearby party members. So that's good. Unfortunately, he has a negative defense because of giant. So he gets that bonus to melee, which melee is decent at 72, but it still doesn't even come close to the 99 that Dale had. He also has lover, not a fighter. So it's not necessarily a negative. However, you do have to keep in mind that they're not going to gain any morale from hostile actions. And let's be honest, you're a gangster. You're going to be hostile. So things to keep in mind. Ranking them, I ranked Dale over Alfred just because his positives outweighed the one negative, and Alfred has many negatives. That negative defense just really does not do him any favors in this. So that's how I rated them. So next we're gonna look at the enforcers. So first enforcer is Baby Brute Monks. So look at that hit points, man, skyrocketed, 144. Got a decent initiative here, 52. He's got a decent defense. He still has the minus from giant, but at least he has a bonus to it, so it goes up. He's got aggressive, so gains 2 morale in combat, but loses after 1 week of not being in combat. You're going to be in combat quite a bit. He's got giant, which gives him a bonus to melee. Unfortunately, it gives him that negative defense, so it's good and bad. He also has easy come, easy go. He doesn't lose morale, so that's good. So any morale he gains, he won't lose it, and that's nice. However, he's got a low base marksman. He's got kind of a low melee for an enforcer. Now he still gets bonuses, even from giant, but still he's still only sitting at 65, which really isn't that high. He has a super low movement of 4, and for some reason he has rifle training, and he's not even wielding a rifle. Now it's a unique, so I mean, and he comes with his own armor. That's nice. So he's got a unique machine gun, but he has rifle weapon training for absolutely zero reason. He's an enforcer. I really hope you wouldn't go with rifle training for an enforcer. But I mean, you know, do what you want with these guys. You know, make them unique. It's just his combination of skills just kind of leaves something to be desired. So next we are going to look at Bruno. Bruno. All right, so Bruno also has 144 hit points. He has a pretty decent marksman, high base, but he has those nervous reflexes, which brought it down by 5. But still, that's a pretty high marksman for an enforcer. The next, that melee is just off the charts for this tier. 104 melee, so he already had a high. His base is higher than Baby's like total, so he's off the charts on melee. He has a pretty decent move at 7, so that's nice. Really high leadership. Like this is, you would think you would want enforcers with high leadership, that or high intimidation, but high leadership. This one is one of the highest for enforcers that I've seen. So that's really good. He's also got a pretty decent defense. You know, yeah, it's from In Love, but at least he has that defensive bonus. And he's got Brawny, which gives him a bonus to damage, so that's good. The only true downside here is a really low initiative, and he's intolerant. But in this case, I rated Bruno over Baby just because Baby's stats were just so low that we can overcome initiative with an item. It won't be nearly as high as 52, but it'll still be high enough to get over all of those other negatives that Baby has, or maybe not negatives, but average stats that he has. So I rated Bruno over Baby. All right, next we're going to look at con artists.
Hey.
So first we got Bernie. Bernie has pretty decent high hit points here. He's got a pretty high marksman, close to 100 there, and he's got a pretty high melee, which means we can kind of specialize him how we want. You notice how he has a sniper rifle, and he could probably use it, you know, with good accuracy. But if he needs to get in melee range, he can actually do some damage. So that's good. He also has really high initiative and a really good movement, decent movement there. So, you know, good bonuses there. Plus he's brawny, so he adds damage and that bonus to melee. So that's good, especially if you want to either specialize him in melee or if you just want him to be ready for anything, an all-rounder. So anytime he'd get into melee range, he would add that extra damage, so that's good. Unfortunately, he's got 2 decent downsides here, and decent as in not so great. He has no defense bonus. And he has the coward trait, which means he has a chance to run away if a team member flees. Just flees, not even dies, just flees. So definitely something to keep in mind. Next, and don't at me if I get this wrong. It looks like Etsko, but I want to say Etsko. I'm not sure. Don't at me if I got it wrong. But we're gonna look at her now. High hit points, so same as Bernie. Pretty high marksman, only 5 down from Bernie, so you know, not too bad. But has an 8 movement, so even higher movement, so that's good. Decent melee and decent initiative, so not a great melee and not a super high initiative, but still, you know, pretty decent for both, especially for con artists. Yeah, you want the initiative to be higher for con artists, but that's still above average, so that's good. Good defense, so she's at a minimum, she's got it. And she's got a pretty decent leadership stat. That's actually pretty good there. She also has careful, which is that resist to crit. And one thing that really puts her over the top for me in this instance is a cat has 9 lives. So once per combat, if an attack would kill him, instead they bounce back 20% hit points. So especially with con artists being the sneaky, get up close types, if you make her that kind of build, she would have the ability to go down once and then still pop back up. So that's actually pretty good. Weirdly enough, in this instance, we don't really have any true negatives. She also has that pickpocket, which allows all melee attacks to have a chance to steal an item, and it's an okay melee here. It's just from base, so really no true negatives with this particular character. All right, last but not least, we are going to look at Frank Nitty. So Frank, he has that pretty high hit points at 95, so they all tie there. He also has a 94 marksman, which is pretty close, but he has that higher initiative of 58, so it's not the highest. It's not 60 like Bernie had, but it's still high. Go along with that, he has a very high movement, and he has a pretty high leadership skill. So that's actually kind of a bonus there. You have, let's go decent melee. With 65, it's once again not the greatest, but still, decent. And he has thick-skinned, which, gives you that minus to injury chance and resist crit. So good there. His only true negative, he has no defensive bonus. And especially when you're talking con artists, yeah, we would like that defensive bonus. But, we can't always get that. And as far as ranking them, I did take Frank over Etsko. So Frank I rated number 1, Etsko I rated number 2, and Bernie I rated number 3. And the reason I picked Frank over Etsko is just because of the initiative. Thick skin helped, but it was very close. Cat had 9 lives, almost put her over the top. However, thick skin and his high move, high initiative, high leadership just gave him the edge over Etsko. So, all right. Next, last but not least, we have hired guns. So first, we're going to start with ZZ. So ZZ has a pretty high marksman here at 100. Also has a high move, and I say high move, but that's for a hired gun. 6 is a pretty high move for a hired gun. Has good leadership stat. Has defense, that's good. Decent melee. We're not super concerned with melee, but I wanted to highlight it because that's a good base. And you got fairly average hit points. It's only 81. It's not that great, but still okay. She also has easy come, easy go, so she doesn't lose morale either. So that's nice. Some of her negatives. She has kind of a low initiative. 33 is not that great. She also has afraid, and that is chance to flee if someone dies. So not something you necessarily want, but it's not a deal breaker. Next, we look at Ray. So
what's up?
Ray here, he has a high marksman, 102, so we've broken the triple digits here. He also has a really high initiative of 61. That's good. He has a high move at 6, once again, just like with Z. He also has a pretty decent leadership bonus here at 77. So far, his stats are either equal or above. He also has more hit points by 5, so 86, so decent hit points. He has a 65 melee, so a little bit higher base, so decent there. He also has a defense. Now it's not 25, but he still has that bonus, and that's good. Truly, none of these traits are true negatives. Yeah, persuasion's low, but you just don't put him in those situations. He's got all around good stats. and a slightly higher hit points. So I really didn't find any true negatives with Ray. Next, we're going to look at Pearl. So, Pearl has a very high initiative, and might I add, that's a wonderful number to have as an initiative. She also has a high movement at 6. She has good marksman. Now, here's the thing with her marksman. Yeah, it's not triple digits. It's not that great. However, you also have a burst fire weapon on her. So you take that off, she's sitting at 111. Something to keep in mind, but we're not going off of that. We're going off of what the stat says. So it is 91. So it's good. It's also pretty good melee there, so you have some options with that. Decent leadership skill. She actually has a bonus to defense. So not only does she have the in love, but she has the plus to it. So that's actually good. She also has happy. So she gets a bonus to marksman and a bonus to morale. Now she also has brawny, and if you're interested in kind of moving her to a melee type position, she would actually get that bonus damage. So something to consider there. One of the true negatives for her, even though none of these are really, she has good stats here. I put this as a negative. It's up to you to determine whether or not you think it's a negative, but love or not a fighter. All right, so this person gains no morale from hostile actions. Once again, we're talking about a game where you do where you have a lot of hostile actions. I personally have not beaten the game through diplomacy. I don't think it's possible. So you kind of have to have hostile action. So I put that as kind of a negative, but really the only negative for her. All right, next we have George Moran. So George, high melee. We're talking about a higher gun, right? But once again, we keep it in mind, right? He also has a really high leadership skill. So, not bad there. And just like the last two, with the exception of Z, decent hit points here. Unfortunately, he has a good move, but he also has a okay or good marksman. Now, once again, we're talking burst fire. That negative 20 could put him up to 86, but that's still 86. That's still on the low end. So definitely something to keep in mind when we're talking about him. But he has hair trigger, 100% chance to activate, so that's nice. Unfortunately, the negatives really slap him in the face. He has got a really low initiative. He's got a negative defense. So not only does he not have a defensive bonus, but he has a negative defensive bonus. So it works against him. And he's got angry, which minus to marksman. Yeah, he gets a bonus to melee, but that really kind of messes him up. And being a hired gun, you kind of prefer your hired guns to be using guns and not, fist weapons or blades, things like that. Now, that's not to say you couldn't use him in a melee capacity. He's just not suited for it. He doesn't have the hit points. He doesn't have the defense. So this stat kind of works against him just because of his defensive bonus and his hit points. Something to keep in mind with George. All right. Last but not least, we've got May Monks. All right, so May, she has a high marksman. Look at that. She also has a high leadership skill, so 85. So it's not, it's not 91 like or let's see, what was the high leadership? 89. So it's not 89. It's close to it, but that's still really high. High initiative, 62. So that's actually a really good high initiative. Decent melee, 75. So that's nice. If it needs to happen, she can pull it off. She has a good defense. Yeah, she has minus from reckless, and that is unfortunate, but she still has that defensive bonus. She has 86 hit points, so just like the last ones other than Z. And she has a high movement, so a 6 movement. Pretty good. No true negatives here. None of these are true negatives. Reckless can be a negative, but it gives her a bonus to initiative, and she has a defensive bonus, so I don't consider it a true negative. And that +2 initiative really, sets her up really good, actually. And barroom brawler. Once again, if you want to utilize her melee, or you want to utilize her as, say, your front row of hired guns, and she does get into melee, she'll get that extra damage, so that is nice. So, as far as tier 4 here, we have ranked the hired guns. We have ranked George here number 5. His negatives and that low initiative just really cripple him. Number 4, I picked ZZ because of Afraid and that low initiative. That Afraid and low initiative really kind of put her in the low tier there. After Z, it got a little bit harder. So I ranked Pearl next. So the reason I ranked Pearl next is because her stats, while pretty good, were still on the low end of marksman. Which is kind of, you want those higher bonuses in hired gun. Yes, you take the burst weapon off of her and she goes higher, but she also, had okay leadership, and it's just you have these bonuses to things that you're really not anticipating to use a whole lot. So that just put her at number 3 for me. Now, number 2 was Ray. Some people may disagree with me here. However, his initiative was pretty close to Pearl's. They have the same move. He has a higher marksmanship to start. Now, I know you take the gun off of Pearl and she has a higher marksman. But he has, good defense. No true negatives to Ray, which is also a bonus for a lot of people. So I took that into account as well to make him number 2. However, the number 1 was May. Her bonuses, her stats and her bonuses are just off the charts. She also has no true negatives. So she definitely took the number 1 for me in marksman. But that is going to do it for Tier 4 Henchmen Review. Like and subscribe for more content. And as always, I'll see you in the next video.